Good morning, everyone. Today's session is mainly about specific guidelines on the issuance of e-invoice part 1. So we have another session which will cover part 2. So in the part 1, we will look into the transaction with buyers, statement or bills on a periodic basis, and disbursement and reimbursement. Also implement perquisites and benefits, expenses incurred by employee on behalf of the employer. Okay, so I start my first topic, transaction with buyers. So currently, suppliers or businesses issue hard copy or soft copy invoices to the buyers using email or WhatsApp or the hard copy to record the transactions. But after implementing the e-invoice, supplier need to issue e-invoices for all transactions. So maybe during this e-invoice time, the buyers maybe they need to use the e-invoice, but sometimes they may not. Maybe they don't request the e-invoice. If they didn't request the e-invoice, then the supplier need to submit consolidated e-invoice by 7th of next month. Okay, so this is the overall workview of the e-invoice process. So we have like scenario 1 and scenario 2, which is like scenario 1 is the buyer requested the e-invoice. Scenario 2 is buyer didn't request the e-invoice. So if buyer requested the e-invoice, then supplier or the cashier need to get the details of buyers and submit to LHDN. And then after LHDN validate the e-invoice, then they will give the visual representation of the e-invoice, the valid QR code to the buyer. But if buyer didn't request the e-invoice, then they will keep their receipt, their invoice until next month, end of the month. The next month by 7th of the next month, then they need to submit the consolidated e-invoice. Okay. Okay. So before I start the scenarios, this is the details of individual buyers for the issuance of e-invoice. So all the e-invoices we must put the supplier side must put the individual buyers details if it's individual submission. So first they need to, this is the compulsory information that buyers need to provide. First one is the buyer's name. So buyers need to provide the full name as per IC or passport if it's foreigner, or BRN. Based on BRN, the company name. Then second one is buyer's TIN or buyer's IC number, passport number, or BRN. So why I put these two in one point is because they have option, like the individual, they also can only provide the TIN. If they only provide the TIN, then supplier side need to put 00000 for the identification number. I think it's 1200. And then if they didn't provide the TIN, but they only provide the passport number, the IC number for the local, then they need to put EI 0000110. But if it's foreigner, then that will be EUI 000210 for the TIN number. If they didn't provide the TIN, but only provide the IC or identification number. But they also can provide both TIN and identification number to the supplier side. Then third one is buyer's address. So buyer address is usually the residential address of the buyer. Then buyer's contact number, their phone number, and then buyer SSD registration number. So if let's say they didn't register for the SSD, usually the individual, they don't have SSD number. So if they don't have this SSD number, then the supplier side can put an A for the submission. Okay, I put the note here. So in Malaysia, both individuals and entities who are registered taxpayer with IRBM are assigned with a tax identification number, which is TIN, known as number, this one. And then TIN will be issued to all Malaysian citizens age of 18 years old and above. So if they are local, usually they do have TIN number, but it just depends on they want to provide or not. Okay, this is the TIN structure. So here you can see I put individual TIN and non-individual TIN. Non-individual TIN is usually for companies. So under the non-individual TIN, you can see they have 14 categories. So each categories they have TIN code, their own TIN code, which will be the first alphabet of the TIN number. Okay, for the individual TIN, new individual TIN usually start with IG. Then there is no any other alphabet before the numbers. And then for the company side, it will follow the category. Okay, and then here also you can see before, based on the old format of the TIN number, they may contain SG, OG prefix. But if after 2023 January, all will be changed to IG. So when you're submitting the buyer's details to HDA, you must put IG. Even it's SG or OG, you need to convert to IG and then submit to LHDN. If for the non-individual, the companies, you need to put 0 after the TIN, after their original number. So you need to make sure that the company's TIN number is end with 0. Okay. So where to find the TIN? Usually a Malaysian taxpayer can check their TIN on the front page of their individual income tax return or through My Tax Portal. So you just need to log into your My Tax Portal, and then in My Tax Portal, then you can see your own TIN number. Okay, so I start with the scenarios. So first one is this is the requirements. Just now I talked about the requirements for the individual. So this part is the requirements on the consolidated submission. So for the consolidated submission, consolidated e-invoice must be submitted within 7 days after the month's end. Then the supplier can adopt one or combination of the following method. One is they can put their receipt number as a separate lines in the consolidated e-invoice. So each line you need to put your one invoice or one receipt number for the description, and then quantity will be 1. The amount will be total amount of that receipt. Okay, so one line, one receipt number. Then second one is the list of receipt for as a separate line, which means that you can combine the continuous number of receipt number. So means if your receipt number is start from 001 until 0010, then you can put this 001 until 10 in one line. Then for the amount, you need to put the total amount for that 10 receipt. But if let's say after 0010, it stopped, then again it continue with 013, then 013 to 015, then this 3 receipt must be in a separate line. So it's like you need to make sure that it's continuous receipt number in each line. Okay, then third one is you can issue your consolidated e-invoice for based on branch. So you can separate your consolidated e-invoice by branch. And then after you separate by branch, then you can use any of A or B for the submission. You want to use by line or you want to combine the continuous receipt number in one line. It depends on your preference. Okay. Then other than that, HDN also they need to make sure that their system is smooth, the submission is smooth. So they put some limitation. So first one is the maximum size of per submission cannot exceed 5 MB. Then each submission you only can submit 100 e-invoices. Then last one is one invoice cannot exceed 300 KB. And then last part is, okay, you cannot submit your consolidated e-invoice for the self-bid e-invoice except the transaction with individuals who are not conducting the business, then interest payment to public charges. Last one is the claim compensation or benefit payments from the insurance businesses of an insurance to individuals. Okay, but currently they introduce 6 months grace period for each batch. So, but during this 6 months grace period, you can submit your self-billed e-invoice. You can consolidate your self-billed e-invoice for all the transaction. But after this 6 months period, you must follow this one. Okay, the number 4. Okay, so this is the details of buyer for issuance of consolidated e-invoice. So for the buyer's name, you need to put general public. For the buyer's team, this is the number that you need to use, which will be start with EI and then end with 10. The third one is for the business registration number or identification number or passport number, you need to put NA. Then for the address, contact number, and SSD number, everything you need to put NA, which is not applicable. Okay, for the consolidated e-invoice, there's some activities that they cannot or you cannot combine and for the consolidation, which means you need to issue e-invoice for each transaction one by one, which are automotive, like they are selling any motor vehicle. Then second one is aviation, like selling of flight ticket or private charter. Then third one is luxury goods or jewelry. This one is currently on hold. So you still can submit as a consolidated e-invoice for now until further notice. But this one maybe in the future you only can submit individual e-invoice. Okay. Then fourth one is construction, like construction contractor undertaking construction contract, the wholesaler and retailers of construction materials, then license betting and gaming, payout to winners for all betting and gaming activities that they have. Like note that the however payout to winners in relation to betting and gaming in casino or from gaming machines, they all need to submit by individual. Then last one is payments to agents, dealers, and distributors. Okay, so this is the overview of some of the method for suppliers to issue e-invoice. Okay, they have like just now we talked about there will be two scenarios. One is the e-invoice requested by buyers. The another one is e-invoice not requested by buyers. So for the requestion part, there will be two methods also. One is request on the spot. The another one is they purchase the item, they already have the receipt, but at the point they didn't request for e-invoice. But after a few days, then they come back and then that they suddenly realize that they need e-invoice for that current their receipt. Then they will ask for you in the future, maybe within that month. Okay, so if they request on spot, then the supplier can issue the e-invoice from their own online platform, then or your post or directly from my invoice mobile app or my invoice portal. Currently my invoice mobile app is not ready yet, so they can request from the portal. Then if let's say the buyer come back after a few days, then request for e-invoice, which means we call post-transaction request. Then this one can be requested via the online platform, which is supplier's own platform. So maybe they can purchase customer portal for their buyer to request the e-invoice after a few days within the month. Okay, here I put some illustration scenarios so we can go through it for the better understanding of e-invoice submission. First one is like SMEs, MSMEs with annual revenue or turnover below 150,000 are exempted from issuing e-invoice. So if let's say buyer purchase something from the MSMCs, then they go to request MSMEs, the company, then the company they can reject and then they can say that they don't implement the e-invoice as their turnover, their revenue is less than 150,000. But they also still can voluntarily implement the e-invoice also. Okay, so this is the one illustration. Then second one is buyers can request for an e-invoice at point of sales. Okay, so for example, if you look at here, Tina buys a smartphone from Kida Electronics Smart Gadget and requests for an e-invoice. Then during the checkout, the cashier need to ask Tina's details for the submission, like their TIN, her TIN, or her full number, contact number, address, then IC number. Then after that, the cashier need to key in all the details and submit to HDM. Maybe they can submit from the portal itself or using the API integration. Maybe their system already integrated with the LHDN, then it will be directly sent to LHDN site. Then after submission, then after maybe just within a few seconds or after a few seconds, then cashier will be receive a valid e-invoice. Then cashier can give the QR code to Tina. At the same time, Tina also will receive an email from LHDN site. But in order to receive the e-invoice notification from LHDN site, Tina must log in to my invoice portal to set her notification for the e-invoice site. Okay, then third one, buyers can request for an e-invoice after point of sale, but before month end of purchase. So just now I already explained to this part. So this is the example, like Hina buys a smartphone from Kida Electronics Smart Gadget and did not request for an e-invoice. Then after a few days later, Tina returns to Kida Electric Smart Gadget to request an e-invoice for the smartphone she purchased on 25th May, but she went to the store and asked on 28th May. So on 28th May, because still within the month, so means this Kida Electric Smart Gadget, they still didn't consolidate their e-invoice and submit to LHDN. So the cashier can find out the receipt that Tina purchased before and then update the details of Tina's, then submit to LHDN. Then LHDN can return the valid e-invoice to Tina, also the company side. Then the illustration 4 is buyer can request for e-invoice after the month of purchase, but this part is subject to seller's internal policy. Like for example, Tina purchased the smartphone on 15th August, but after 15th of August, next month, only next month, maybe 10th of September, Tina realized that she needs the e-invoice for the maybe claim or submission to his company. Maybe his company requested. Then, but Kida Electronic Smart Gadget, they can say that sorry, we already submitted consolidated e-invoice, so we cannot provide the e-invoice to you. But based on their policy, they also can create and credit note to their last month, their submitted consolidated e-invoice, but make sure that they select the correct UUID for the credit part. Then after that, then they create a new invoice for Tina to get the valid e-invoice. So this is the one of the solution that Tina and then the Kia Electric Smart Gadget can use. But this one, it depends on seller internal policy. Okay, the next one is Malaysian individual buyers have the option to provide TIN or Malaysia identification number. So this one, just now I already explained to you. So the buyer, they have option to provide the TIN only, or they also can only provide the IC number. So if they only provide the IC number, the TIN part, company need to put the general public number. But if let's say they only provide the TIN, but they didn't provide the IC, then for the IC part, the supplier will need to fill up. Okay, next part is submission of e-invoice can be done via my invoice portal on an individual basis. So this is the part that how the company can use my invoice portal to do the submission. So if let's say they don't have any ERP system that integrate with HDN site, then they need to manually submit it from the My Invoice portal. So when they submitting the My Invoice portal, then they can submit by one by one. So they need to key in their buyer's details and then their items details, their amount, and then submit to HDN site. But My Invoice portal, they also have batch upload. So they need to download their template from My Invoice portal. Then in the template, they need to follow the columns and update the details for the submission. Then after that, they upload to My Invoice portal. Then My Invoice portal will be sent out the notification if it's valid to the each buyer site. Okay, this is not for the consolidation, but this one is individual submission, but they can submit by batch from the My Invoice portal. Okay, next one is where buyers do not require an e-invoice, seller is required to submit consolidated e-invoice. So this is the one that we discussed just now. So if let's say buyers didn't request, then the company need to submit the consolidated e-invoice by next 7th of next month to the LHDN to prove that they have this income. Okay, next part is this one is a bit different scenario. So this one is related to landlord, like who conduct the businesses. So let's say usually landlord is required to issue e-invoice to tenant, like including utility charges. Because if let's say you rent a office, then you need to pay the utility bill. But the utility bill usually will be the details will be under landlord. So the e-invoice for the utility bill by Tinaga National also will be go to landlord side. So in that case, if you look at to these scenarios, like Omega Properties, a property developer owns multiple commercial shoplets and Taman Sigar. One of its shoplet is rented to Kida Electric Smart Gadget. So Smart Gadget pays for its own utility bills. So in that case, Omega Properties, they need to issue e-invoice to Kida Electric Smart Gadget, but this e-invoice need to include the rental and the utility charges also. Okay, then they will submit to LHDN. Then after the submission, then Kida Electric Smart Gadget will receive the valid e-invoice, which is for the rental that pay, also plus the utility that they pay. So, but for this part, you need to make sure that the landlord conducting the business. So this scenario is for who conducting the business for for the rental income. Okay. Okay, so this is all for the transaction with the buyers. Next part, we will go to the statement or bills on a periodic basis. Okay, so current process is like certain businesses, they issue a periodic basis or bills to record like multiple transaction between seller and buyers. So this periodic basis means it's like your statement is bi-monthly or quarterly or annually. So like for this one, there are some industry or sectors, but it's not limited to only this one. So this is just an example. Like usually digital electronic payment, financial services, including like banking and financial institution, healthcare, insurance, stockbroking, telecommunication. They usually like they issue the statement or bills on periodic basis. Okay, so but after you implement the e-invoice, then sellers are required to issue an e-invoice for items that are showing in the statement or bill if the e-invoice is requested by customer. So if let's say your customer didn't request for e-invoice, then for this periodic basis statement, you also can still submit the consolidated e-invoice. But if they requested, then you need to put all the details that mentioned on the statement to the e-invoice also, and then submit to HTN. Okay, so for example, based on this one, sellers that issue statements on a periodic basis are required to issue e-invoice. Like for example, Kenny received his phone bill for the month of October from his telco provider, which is Delta Telco Sdn Bhd. Then Kenny requests for an e-invoice to be issued for his monthly phone bill. Then on a monthly basis, the telco creates and submits Kenny's e-invoice to LHDN. The visual representation of the e-invoice is then shared with Kenny. So for this one, I put one example here. So you can see this is the example of the visualization of the printable for the monthly basis. So if you look at here, you can see like frequency of billing, which is monthly, and then billing period for the August. So because it's monthly, so you need to put the billing period also. So this is the important part for the statement of bills on a periodic basis. Then for the description, the line item here, you need to put all the charges that you put in the original statement. Like for example, here you can see monthly charges, and then also here you put the other charges. So you need to make sure that you follow your own statement, original statement. Okay, so here another example. E-invoice issued for bills on periodic basis may include adjustment to statements from a prior period, such as rebates. Okay, so here for on the example, Tina has been a loyal subscriber of Delta Telco Santander has postpaid plan for many years. So to thank Tina for her loyalty, Delta Telco is providing her with a 10 ringgit monthly rebate for next 24 months. So when Delta Telco is issuing the e-invoice, they need to include this 10 ringgit monthly rebate to their e-invoice also. So means all the details, all the lines, all the items on the statement must be submitted to e-invoice. Okay, so next part is disbursement or reimbursement. So reimbursements are usually the out-of-pocket expense that the seller incurs while providing goods and services to the buyers, which the buyer then reimburses to the seller. But these disbursement are the out-of-pocket expense that the seller pays to third party in relation with goods sold or services provided to the buyer. Okay, here are some example. First one is single e-invoice that includes the service fee and cost is issued to the buyer, where e-invoice are issued to seller. So in this case, if you look at here, Adiba hires an event planner to organize their business product launch celebration. Then the event planner rents a hotel ballroom for 30,000 for the launch event, and the hotel issues an e-invoice to the event planner. So which means the 30,000 rental fee actually directly issued to the event planner, not Adiba. Then the event planner issue an e-invoice to Adiba for her event planning service and the reimbursement for the hotel ballroom rental as a separate line items of the e-invoice. So on the e-invoice, you can see two lines. One is the services that they provide to Adiba, plus the another line is the hotel ballroom rental reimbursement. The reimbursement for the hotel ballroom rental, because hotel ballroom rental was provided to Adiba and event planners like not Adiba. So event site need to get the amount from Adiba. So they need to include this amount to their e-invoice for the submission. Okay, next part is no e-invoice is required for payments made on behalf. So this one is for the disbursement part. So if you look at in this scenario, DEF company hires HR hiring for recruitment services, and HR hiring issued an e-invoice to DEF for the service provided. But ABC company, which is the parent of the DEF, pays HR hiring on behalf of DEF. Then later, DEF company will pay back to ABC company in full. So here, there is no e-invoice needed to be issued by ABC to DEF, nor by HR hiring to ABC, because the service was provided to DEF, then the e-invoice already issued to DEF. So this expenses actually belong to DEF. Only ABC was have to pay the amount, but later DEF pay back to ABC. So as no transaction is concluded between these parties. So already like they already done the payment. This is just the transaction between each others. So there is no like expenses related to here in this scenario. So there is no e-invoice required. Okay, so this one is related to disbursement. Okay, and then next part is about the employment benefits. So here, like usually if you sign the contract with the company, then they usually provide like some benefits, for example, like bills, parking, utility bills, parking fees, car maintenance, club membership, gym membership, professional subscription, or some allowance. So in this case, other than that, you also have like expenses that maybe the employee pay first, then after that they will claim from employee. So in that case, LHDN side said if let's say employees like can request to have the e-invoice from supplier on their company side, it's the best practice. But if let's say the supply side they said they cannot put the company's name, they only can put the employee's name, then employees can get the valid e-invoice from the supplier and submit to the company as a claim. Then company need to keep that valid e-invoice for their tax purpose. But here are some example, like maybe the employee went to other country, then after they come back, then they claim. So that receipt was from foreign country, from foreign supplier. So in this case, so they don't issue any e-invoice as they don't implement e-invoice system in their country. So after the employee come back, then they still can submit their original document to the company. Then the company can claim back. Then company will pay back to the employee. But in that case, a company they don't need to issue self-billed e-invoice. So this self-billed e-invoice is exempted in this scenario. Okay, so they don't need to issue any e-invoice to document their foreign expenses, foreign expenses from the employees side. But they need to make sure that they keep the original document that from foreign company, for foreign supplier that submitted by employee in order to show to LHTN later. Okay, so this is the scenario. Bobby is the owner of Kidai Electronic Smart Gadget, while Mary is an employee at his store. Then Mary travels out of the town for a business meeting and requests e-invoice under her name for the expenses incurred during her trip for claim purpose. So Bobby, the company, able to use the e-invoice from Mary's trip even if the e-invoice is issued on her name. So they can keep the e-invoice, the valid e-invoice for the tax purpose. Okay, but here is one requirement. The company or the Bobby, based on the scenarios, that he makes sure that the policy is written in the employment book. Okay. Okay, I think that's all for today's session. So other part we will continue on the part 2. Okay, do you have any question for the specific guideline? Okay, then I think we can end the session. Thank you all. Thank you.